Hey everyone, good afternoon, good morning. It's nice to have you here, Jesse. All right, I think at this point we want to know more about what's going on, about the stuff that you guys are working on. But I've noticed that most of the base team is currently here in Asia. How are things so far? What's the most interesting that has ever happened during this trip so far that you can share?
Yeah, I mean, today is day 21 on the road. It's the last day of the trip. Tomorrow I fly home. It's also my birthday, and so I'm going. Thank you. It's going to be the longest birthday of my life because I leave Manila at 6 a.m. and I get into San Francisco at 7 a.m. Get a 36-hour birthday. And we've been on the road for 21 days, but we've been in Southeast Asia for the last 10 days. We were in Bangkok, then we were in Singapore, we did a quick trip to Malaysia, now we're here in the Philippines. And I think the thing that has been most exciting for me is just the level of energy from builders. Like literally every single city that we go to, we show up and we've spent time and we've met people on the internet, but it's very hard to kind of capture things just through the internet. Like you connect with people on social media. But there is nothing like the experience of showing up in a city that, for me, I've never been to any of these cities before, and having hundreds of builders show up who are literally building the future, whether it's games or social or payments or real world assets or AI. The builders in this part of the world are so creative, so passionate, so hardworking, and so energetic. I mean, it gives me life. People ask me, Jesse, how do you get so much energy? And it's like, well, I'm kind of like a builder vampire. Like the builders say hello to me. They tell me about what they're working on, and it gives me energy and it gets me fired up to be here. So that's been the thing that's been most exciting.
Well, that's really nice to hear though, because like it kind of like leads into my next question on reception, right? Like, obviously we are on a trip here to not only evangelize, but also to meet builders who would eventually be the future of maybe the base ecosystem. But I think my question for you, Jesse, would be, it's probably is a good reception coming from the people that you've met. Are there still any resistance?
Yeah, well, I think, this was kind of illustrated by the questions I asked and people raising their hands. I think that there is a very, very deeply held intuitive understanding that the current systems are broken and that they're not working for anyone, whether it's small businesses who are paying too high fees or creators who are getting left out to dry or gamers who aren't making money from all the time and energy they're putting into these incredible creative games. People feel that the systems are broken and they're looking for a solution. And I think when they hear about on-chain, and in particular, when they hear stories about how other people, whether they're builders or gamers or developers or creators, have come on chain and seen how it can change their lives for the better, it clicks and they get it. And they're like, oh, you're talking about a new economy. And you're talking about a new system that's powered by technology, that's fundamentally global, that can actually work for me. And so I'd say that's the predominant experience we're having is people seeing and feeling the energy of the new on-chain economy. Now, at the same time, we are also seeing, and this shows up in data, this shows up in anecdotal evidence, that there's still a lot of kind of like fear, uncertainty, and doubt about crypto. Right? We've now been in the space building for a decade. And through that time, there have been things that have gone wrong. There have been scams. There has been fraud. There has been a lot of speculation with prices going up and down. And I think that in the kind of like broader public consciousness, that still is something that a lot of people like have in the back of their head, especially people who haven't been close to builders. And so a lot of what we're trying to do right now is we're trying to change the narrative. We're trying to tell a new story about on-chain, about the future, about this global economy that we're all building together. And we're trying to tell it in a way that everyday people can understand. And so it looks a little bit different than the last decade of crypto. Like we're no longer looking at price charts. We're no longer just celebrating coins going up. Instead, we're doing vertical videos. I did like 5 vertical video content conversations outside.
I saw you there.
We're just trying to meet people where they are on TikTok, on Instagram, and help them understand this isn't a scary thing. This is the future, and we want you to be a part of it.
That's amazing though, because I do think that as far as like base is concerned, there's really this growing traction of fully on-chain games and on-chain games in general. How do you think this is going to help making things mainstream?
Yeah. Yeah, if I was gonna analogize where we are in the kind of like arc of adoption of on-chain, it feels kind of like 2007, 2008 Facebook like games, whereas like Farmville was coming out, and you had a lot of smaller developers who were building casual games that were starting to go viral. And I think like that's what we're seeing today on chain. You know, of course we have Axie, but on base more recently we have things like Cat Town, we have Friend Pet, we have Legends of Arcadia, we have Super Champs, which is launching their token today. There's all of these like game developers, game builders who are mostly small teams, who are mostly building fully on chain, who are realizing that if they build their game on chain, they can reach new audiences, they can monetize in new ways, and they can have an even bigger impact. And then we're starting to see distribution channels like Farcaster, like Twitter, like Zora, where people are actually being able to tap into social distribution, social viral distribution. And I think in the next 6 to 12 months, that's only going to accelerate. Like we're only going to see more virality of consumer experiences, more virality of content, and more virality of on-chain native social. That's going to be a huge accelerant for these indie, smaller builder gamers and game developers to reach mass adoption.
I'm quite happy that you mentioned that because we just had this talk just a while ago before we hopped on stage. But there's this resounding voice within game development in terms of who builds the best. You know, obviously smaller teams, bigger teams with funding and all that stuff. But you mentioned indies, right? And I do think that indies right now would have a home in base.
100%. 100%. Yeah, I mean, like bases for builders and indie game developers are like the ultimate form of builder. And they've been the ultimate form of builder for decades at this point. Like you go back to even pre-internet and you think about the people who are, building games for their little local hardware devices. And it's people just doing it for the love of the game. Like showing up because they love gaming and because they have a creative kind of energy that's inside of them that the only way it can come out is through building games. And sometimes those games work and sometimes they don't, but like the game is the point. But I think if you look at the last 20 years, you've had those people building, but for the most part, like the deck has been stacked against them. Like in the centralized platforms of today and the off-chain platforms of today, if you're an indie gamer, an indie game developer, it's hard for you to get distribution. It's hard for you to get reach. It's hard for you to get funding. It's hard for you to actually like get access to build and to reach the people who are going to love your game. And I think really this is what base and the new on-chain economy is about. It's about putting everyone on a level playing field. So that if you are just building a game and you are at your house and you're a solo indie game developer, you can go viral. And when you go viral, you can earn, it can change your life. And you're not going to be beholden to a studio or to a centralized platform or to a hardware device manufacturer. Instead, you're only beholden to your creativity. And we're not there yet entirely. We have a lot of work to do, but that's the vision, and it feels like every single day we get closer.
Have you been seeing games lately, fully on-chain games that kind of like catching your attention? And you're like, I like this game. I'm enjoying this game.
Yes, a ton. I mean, I mentioned two of them, and I'll just dig deeper on them. One is Friend Pet, which was like really one of the first fully on-chain games on base. It's like Tamagotchi. But on chain, you get a pet, you take care of it. People love it and they play it. And it's still small numbers. We're talking like thousands, tens of thousands of people who are playing it regularly. But like the audience is small today. And so it's not crazy to think that over the next few years that could grow into a really, really big number of people. The other one that I think has a special place in my heart for being in the Philippines is Cat Town, which is like one of the fastest growing games in the Philippines right now. Incredible set of builders, incredible level of creativity. It's a fishing game. They have like little micro games that they build that kind of fit inside the broader game. I'm a longtime fisher, like in the real world. Like I love going fishing. And so it's like a personal thing for me. And I love cats, although I don't own a cat. I don't own a cat.
It's never too late.
What's the name? There's no name. No cat. But yeah, those are two that come to mind for me. And then I met with the Legends of Arcadia team right outside. What they're building is awesome. Super Champs has been like showing up for the last many years to build awesome games, and they're having a big day today. So shout out to them. And I like the rate at which new games are emerging is also just kind of like mind blowing at this point. It's hard for me to keep up, and I'm really excited to see more folks building like kind of game aggregators where they're making it easier for people to play games. And so this is things like The Basement, B3, this is things like Barrio. I'm sure I'm missing other ones, but like people who are really giving folks almost like an on-chain console that makes it easy for you to discover and engage with games, I think is really, really, really important infrastructure for getting distribution.
That's amazing. There has to be like a full-on ecosystem here, right? Because it's one thing for people to start making games, but it's also another thing. The distribution question is also going to be very crucial for success. It's not only that they make great games, but also distribute it in such a way where everybody is able to play it.
Yeah, and I think this is like if I could really set one goal for 2025 for the base team, it is to make it so that builders can go viral. Because if you look at the last 20 years, the biggest kind of shift in the way the world works is that content creators have been able to go viral. Like 20 years ago, we didn't have social media in the same way. But now, if you make great content, you can go viral. But the same hasn't happened for builders. And it's because the platforms like Facebook, the feeds, they're locked down. Like literally, Farmville started to show that they could go viral, but then Facebook shut down the platform. And I think what we're seeing open up with this new on-chain economy and on-chain platforms like Base is a reopening of these platforms. And with that, I think we're bringing about the possibility that for the first time, we're going to create a level playing field for builders where if you build something great, if you build a great game, it can go viral. And that, I think, is going to be kind of like the final frontier for our global economy. We've solved the virality of content. Now we need to solve the virality of builders and the apps and games that they create. And I think it's happening right in front of our eyes.
That's extremely attractive, quite honestly, coming from a game developer perspective who's been very challenged on the Google Play Store, on the App Store, even on Steam, even on itch.io, where most of the indies congregate. Having a much more equitable way of being able to actually earn something for the games that they've created is a dream come true for a lot of devs.
Yeah, and I think it's also just going to massively simplify the experience for game players, right? Like right now, best case scenario, you see a game that you're excited about in Twitter, it's like, you're clicking out of Twitter, you're going to another website, you're like connecting your wallet, like you're having to go muck around and do a bunch of stuff. Lots of people churn throughout there. I think that where we'll be in the next kind of like 6 months or so is something will show up in your feed, you'll tap and you'll just start playing. And like everything will just work. And it's going to be powered by this composable nature of on-chain, where we can bring your identity, we can bring your wallet into the feed, and then we can bring the actual game into the feed using mini apps like we're seeing on Telegram and Farcaster. And I think that shift in kind of how games show up and how apps show up is going to be one of the big structural changes that enables builders to go viral.
You mentioned something about builders getting viral, right? Because as you mentioned, a lot of times it's mostly creators that are, getting viral. But builders, to some degree, are also creators, just a different kind of creator, right? They're creating the actual content that creators are creating. And so in terms of like what Base is working on right now, are there anything specific to kind of like bring in more virality for these game developers, not just the one that we've talked about, but also those that want to be part of the Base ecosystem?
Yeah, so there's a lot of things we're working on. I can't talk about all of them, but I can say that the things that we're most focused on is kind of the two sides of the market. One is we're investing in things like On-Chain Kit that provide developers really easy tools for building on-chain products, whether they're games or social or other. And then also making sure that those on-chain products show up in a really easy way in mini apps. on Telegram, on Farcaster, in other places. And so that's really about enabling builders to build in a really easy way so that they can go viral. And then the other side is about building the eyeballs and the distribution channels where the builders can actually go viral. And we've been cooking on that for a little while. We've been seeing kind of Coinbase Wallet experiment with that. We've been seeing Farcaster and Warpcast experiment with that, Telegram with their mini apps. And we are working to kind of bring all that together and to make some pretty big investments that we think are going to make it even easier for builders to go viral across millions, tens of millions, hundreds of millions of people.
I really like that idea. You now have incumbents, platforms where distribution can be amazing in terms of volume, supporting that via Base and giving all of these game developers that infrastructure to just bring their games over, whether it's Farcaster, whether it's Telegram, and just have a huge user acquisition potential. I think that's really smart.
I think it's going to be huge. And I think one of the most powerful things is going to be every person who's going to be showing up to these games as they're going viral is going to have a fully baked identity with a social graph that you can pull into your game so it feels like connected and personal to you. And they're going to have a funded wallet that's global, like a globally available funded wallet that anyone in the world can use. And if you could like just randomly sample game developers and were like, how valuable would it be to have all of the social graph and all of the identity and a fully funded wallet that could reach every person everywhere in the world if they have an internet connection?
Amazing.
It's going to be amazing.
It's going to be amazing, man.
Like it is amazing, and it's only going to get more and more powerful, and that's really what we're focused on enabling with Base.
Well, speaking of, having... Come on, thanks, IC. I love that. So, speaking of amazing, right? We talk about fully on-chain games and the initiatives that Base is doing right now. I guess I'm gonna put you more on like a prediction hat here. How do you see it moving along next year?
Yeah. So I think one of the big shifts is going to be this kind of builders going viral. That's going to be a big change, and we think it's going to happen faster than people expect. And it's going to happen at a scale that's much bigger than people expect. And so we're super excited about that. The other one, and it's I think really relevant to why we're here and why GG is, I think we're going to see a lot more people coming together to play games. People coming together to earn as they play games. And kind of the next generation of these guilds that we've seen, be an emergent phenomenon over the last 20 years, but not really maybe ever achieve their fullest potential because the tooling's been kind of lackluster. Because if you wanted to bring people together to play games, you had to deal with people being in different countries and them not having the same payment systems. And most of the time, those payment systems not interacting with the games. And all of that meaning that you couldn't actually get people working together in their fullest, best selves with all of the existing infrastructure. And so I think as we see this like massive increase in builder virality, on the other side, we're going to see this massive increase in the kind of connective tissue between gamers and the ability for gamers to come together to accomplish more together. Because at the end of the day, we can always do more working together than we can alone. And I think it's tools like the on-chain guilds that YGG is announcing and building that's going to enable that. It's tools that are on-chain native, that can pool on-chain assets, that can set up permissions and roles so that people can actually grow their guild, can grow their community, and then can enable them to play these games or to even do other things like create or build together with the superpower of a community. And so I think those two sides, like supply side kind of amping up how well we can work together, and then demand side really creating pipelines for virality, are going to create like a reckoning in 2025. And it's going to be a good reckoning where builders are going to be able to build better and earn more, and everyday people and gamers are going to be able to play funner games with their friends, with their communities, and earn more as well.
That's good, because another thing that I've kind of like really thought about in terms of how Base is sort of like transitioning over and doing all these initiatives to bring in more game developers and game creators into the space, right? Is number one, your Asia tour and your tour in Africa as well, kind of like really melded together different projects, really cool ones at the very least as well, to work with you guys. But here in the Philippines, is there anything specific that you guys have been working on? I know you've been working with Gabby and the team regarding on-chain guilds, but are there anything else that we're going to be expecting from Base?
Yeah, I think if you look at the Philippines, what you see is that it is like right now one of the largest adopters globally of crypto, both for gaming and for payments. It is an incredibly like hardworking and creative set of people. And I'll just use this. There's a very special someone in the audience right now who's from the Philippines, who I've been working with for the last 6 years, who is very close to me. And through working with her, I've gotten a little bit of a lens into the Philippines, although this is my first time visiting. And I can honestly say that like I would not be here, Base would not be here without her. And the level of creativity, passion, hard work that she brings every day is an inspiration to me. And every single Filipino that I've met on this tour thus far, and I've met in my time, with Gabby and others, like has shown up in a similar way. And so that combination, the combination of the most forward thinking in the world on crypto adoption and like some of the most talented, creative people in the world, that's a powerful combination. And when we were thinking about where we wanted to be spending our time, that brought it to the top of the list. And I think as we're looking towards 2025, there's a few things we're doing. One is, Coinbase already has a big presence in the Philippines. I think we employ something like 400 people here. But Base doesn't yet. But we're actually right now hiring a leader for Based Philippines.
You heard that.
Which is basically going to be the country leader for all the Philippines, who's going to be doing marketing and DevRel and technology and business and partnerships and policy to basically figure out how can we support the Philippines economy to come on chain. Because the best version of the global economy is the economy where every country comes on chain and where it's built by Filipinos, built for Filipinos, and built for the world. And so that going into the next year is our top focus. It's about building a local presence, hiring local leaders, helping them hire other local Filipino developers and engineers and marketers and business people to figure out how can we use this technology to make Manila and Baguio and other Philippine cities in the entire Philippine country to be a leader from a global economy perspective, from an on-chain perspective.
Woo! If you're not excited for that, I don't know what.
And I just gotta say, like, I am so honored and grateful to be here. I'm so honored that Gabby invited us here, and I'm so grateful that we got to bring, I think, like 15 members from the core Base team here. Raise your hand if you're from the Base team. Some people sitting over here, yeah, on the front. Like, it's such a joy, and we're just super grateful that everyone welcomed us with open arms. And if you're not done having fun at the end of this event, we are hosting a Base meetup. That's the final stop on Based Around the World at 5 p.m. tonight. 5 p.m. at the Palace at Revel. And we'd love to see you there because we're going to be having fun. We got drinks. We got food. I'm going to be giving a hype speech. We're going to be talking about the Philippines and builders, and we'd love to see you there.
Fantastic. You heard it from Jesse. There's a lot of stuff coming in from the Philippines for Base, and I just want to make sure you guys keep abreast on what's going on with Base because there's so many things to expect from them. Another question for you, Jesse, before I guess we have a little bit of time, but what does it take for developers to succeed on Base?
Yeah, really, there's three things about how people build, and then there's one way people show up. So on the how people build, when we're talking to developers, we're talking about how can you be successful on Base, it's really just like how do you build good products? And how do you help us grow the on-chain economy? And we kind of consistently tell them three things. The first thing is you got to make something people want. Because I think at times we've been distracted in crypto. We've been distracted by the prices and the tokens and all these other things. And we've lost sight of the fact that if we do not build things that solve real problems for real people and real businesses that people actually want, none of it matters. So first thing is we got to build things people want. The second thing is we got to make the things that we build really, really easy to use. Like so easy that our parents and our grandparents and our friends and the random person on the street can use it. Because I think we've for too long said, oh yeah, this is good for crypto. This is easy to use for crypto. But that's just not cutting it anymore. If we want to build a global economy that brings the world on chain, we need to be better than the Web 2 products that have spent hundreds of billions of dollars optimizing their experience. We need to be 10x better. And the only way we're going to do that is if we build things that are really, really, really easy to use. And then the third thing is that we gotta bring people on chain. Like, take your app and give it to your friend and watch them. Say 1 sentence. You get to give 1 sentence. Here's what this app is. And then you just have to sit there and watch them. Try and use your app to come on chain. And my gut tells me that if you do that with your friends and you do it with your family and maybe you do it with a random person on the street, you are going to learn so much about how we can build better. And you're going to contribute to the ultimate cause, which is welcoming people into a new economy that works better for them. And every person that you bring on chain is going to look back to that moment where you onboarded them, and they're going to remember, this was the person that introduced me. So those are the 3 things that we really think about for how people build. The last thing, and we say this a lot, is when you're building, you got to stay based.
Stay based, everyone.
And what that means is actually kind of specific. It means that you do the right thing, even when it's tough. It means that you work hard because it's not going to be easy to change the world. It means that you bring creativity. It means that you stay optimistic because the future is bright, but we have to lead us there. And then finally, and this has been a theme, and I think it's a theme with on-chain guilds, is it means that you put the team over the individual. It means that you put the guild over the individual. It means that you put the world over a single country or a single company or a single corporation. It means all of us coming together to build a better future. Because if we do that, we are going to be able to go so much further together than we can go alone. And so when we say stay based, that's what we mean. And when we ask you to keep building and stay based, we hope that you'll join us.
Woo! All right. Really great nuggets of wisdom here, Jesse. And it's fairly easy to remember, right? From what Jesse mentioned, make something that people want or like or love. Keep it simple. Make sure it's on chain and stay based. And obviously, build on base too. I mean,
woo!
Fantastic.
That's good.
Well,
it's rare that we got down to 4 things, and that means you were able to comprehend them and then repeat them back, and that's a good sign. One of the things that I actually think that we've done very well with Base, and this is maybe another tip to builders, is figuring out how you can get not just your user experience simple, but also your messaging simple is so important. One of the things that we do with Base very, very consistently is we try and figure out how do we distill a message down to its absolute core. Things like Base is for everyone. Raise your hand if you've heard the term Base is for everyone before. Lots of people. It's because we realize that's a message that resonates and it reflects our values, and then we say it again and again and again and again and again. Because when you feel like you've said something so many times that you're nauseous from saying it, you gotta say it 1,000 more times. And so that's what we're doing with Base.
All right, I think let's not make this opportunity at a loss by saying Base is for everyone. So I want to hear it from everybody. Base is for everyone. There you go.
Keep building. Keep building.
Stay based. Thank you, everybody.
Thank you, everybody. Come on by this evening.
Thank you, Jesse.
It's so great. Thank you for having me.
Thank you for being Jesse and James. Now, bring all people on chain.